Okay, here we are in the Colonial Gallery, and this has a very, very key work by Eugene von Guerard, who I mentioned in the previous space. Eugene von Guerard arrived here on the goldfields in 1852. Now, he was already a very, very well-trained artist. He'd had an early upbringing as an artist. His father was in fact, his first teacher. His father was a painter of miniatures. And his father also actually, as a young boy, he took him around to different places in Europe. Von Guerard trained in Dusseldorf in a very, very academic tradition. And also he lived in Rome. And von Guerard was always inspired by the landscape, particularly volcanic landscapes, outback landscapes. And he would have been very, very familiar with the extinct volcanoes in Germany, the landscape of Germany, and some of that actually reminded him of the Victorian volcanic landscape. He was drawn to that. And he, when he arrived here, now remember that many of these artists were coming to Australia, hopefully also, as well as being artists, to find gold and get rich quick. But that wasn't always the case. We don't know whether von Guerard actually found gold or not, but what we do know is the legacy that he left is just extraordinary, because while he was on the goldfields, he kept a very, very detailed visual diary of what was happening on the goldfields, okay? Little sketches, little vignettes of what was going on, including of the indigenous people in the land. And that's a really important point that I want to make, because often that's overlooked in the early imagery. Often it's not discussed. And we have to look at that. I think it's such an important thing. The Wadawurrung people from this land, okay, this is their land, okay? This is their land that was settled by, firstly, the Yule brothers for pastures, so grazing their sheep, and then, of course, the discovery of gold in 1851. Consider the impact that would have had on Ballarat, which the very word itself means quiet resting place. No longer a quiet resting place for the indigenous people. Okay, really interesting to consider that. Okay, but getting back to this picture, this is a major work by von Guerard. It's always been in our collection. Okay, it was purchased by James Oddie, the founder of the gallery, directly from the artist. He commissioned him to do this painting, and it's very, very interesting because it was done from a sketch that von Guerard did in summer of 1854, a few months before the Eureka Rebellion. He was sitting up here on the corner of Bath Lane and Lydiard Street, which is not far from this gallery. He sat there, probably just in front of that, just behind that tent, and he sketched the scene as he saw it on what was then known as the flat. Okay, so he sketched in an incredible amount of detail the scene. Now, he didn't do the painting until 30 years later. Okay, interesting. We have the original sketch in our collection, which I'm not going to show you because it's in the archives. He referred to that original sketch and he painted this picture. Okay, it shows the view of the land from his perspective in 1854. Now look at the land, look at what it says about this land. Okay, this is really important for you to consider. The obvious clearing of the land. Look at where the tree line ends. You've got Mount Warren Heap in the background. You've got clearing from here right through. Now, why was this cleared? Obviously, because this, in actual fact, was, at that time, the largest deposit of alluvial gold that had ever been found. So of course, everybody's going to go to that area. Masses of alluvial gold. That's the easy gold to get, okay? Once that's all found, of course, what happens? They dig. They have to put down mines. And again, you can't see all of the detail, but here's what we call a lead here. This is where a very large deposit of gold was found here. And you see what is referred to as mullock heaps. So a lot of gold mines were put down here. And the Eureka Rebellion itself took place in here. That's another whole other area of study that's really interesting too, obviously. So this sets the scene. This actually shows exactly, well, again, according to the artist, the view of the land at that point in time. And he did a lot of other paintings relating to this area too. This is probably one of the key works. It's interesting too because upon studying the actual original sketch, there are a few changes. He made a few changes, okay? For example, over here we have a string of diggers being led by the police to the lockup for neglecting to have their licences on them. Pretty tough times, I tell you, But that was to create the narrative. Remember, 30 years later. Also, he changed some of the mid-ground here, because remember, these artists are creating artworks, pictures, designing pictures to make them work. So of course they're going to change things a little bit. But according to the historians, it's a fairly accurate representation. So it was done in the summer too of 1854. Really interesting, and I don't want to, there's a lot I could talk about with von Guerard, but I just want to mention also the two works at the top here. You have Lake Notuk, which is in the Western District near Colac, and you've got the bushfire over on the far side, which is based on a real fire that occurred in 1857, a grass fire, bushfire that certainly did get out of control. And von Guerard actually was at the scene. Now this is post his time in Ballarat. Both of these were done after that. So he was touring the Western District. He was actually a guest of a lot of the you could say the landed gentry who had acquired very large tracts of land and were farming this very, very rich volcanic land, okay? And so he was painting these views, he was sketching these views. The fire, he was in the distance obviously, and he did several sketches on the spot. Mount Elephant is in the background, although it's not seen because it's actually the wall of fire is covering it. And so he's captured the drama, he's captured the intensity of the land. Now look, if you compare these two views, Lake Notuk, again, volcanic country. This is a crater lake here that we're looking at. You could research von Guerard. There's a lot of information about this artist, and you will find that he went to Mount Gambier. He would have been astounded by the crater lake there because it reminded him again of parts of Germany. He toured all through the Western District, sketching, recording the detail of the land. This was really, really important stuff because it not only is beautiful paintings, but also because it actually records the detail of the land as it was then, and comparing it to how that very area of land is now, okay? These paintings also were really important in informing people about this Australian landscape. Many of these works travelled overseas. Okay, sure, they were purchased by some of the landowners, but many of von Guerard's and Chevalier's works and other artists did travel to galleries overseas, and that would have informed people about what this land was like, okay? Really important stuff. So there are two works, and again, comparing the works, the peace of this crater lake, the beauty of this, contrasted to the drama and the intensity of the land. And that's what this land is like. You know, this is fairly accurate in many ways, okay? So important to be aware of always comparing and contrasting, looking at these images.